my name is Nick Powell. I'm a reporter with City and State. Joining me for today's edition of Last Look is State Director for the Working Families Party, Bill Lipton. Thanks for joining us today, Bill.
Pleasure to be here.
So I wanted to start off by focusing on the WFP's success in the city council races in New York City. Obviously, you guys had a lot of races a lot of candidates that you backed that were successful, and I'm curious if you think that focusing on those council races as opposed to backing a mayoral candidate in the primary kind of helped contribute to that success.
You know, I think that the success with the city council races came from the fact that, you know, the Working Families Party is really an institution that thinks long term. We've always, you know, played a patient game for the long haul. And, you know, the city council work really started back in 2007 when we recruited, you know, great candidates to run for office. And they stepped up and you know, started to do good work to put themselves out there, and then we supported them and helped them win. They formed a progressive caucus, many of them, and even though they were a minority of the council, they were able to still get you know, like tremendous amount done in terms of their policy priorities. And you know, then you know, after 2009, after you know this first class had gotten in there, we started doing more, you know, recruitment, and you know, now there's going to be 12 new progressives on the city council, in addition to the existing ones, and I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I think that, you know, the success of the city council really just had to do with kind of the long-term, patient approach that we bring to bear. You know, we did play a significant, you know, we're proud of the role we played in the comptroller's race and in the public advocates race, and where there's two great candidates that we have a long history with and we're proud to support. And you know, Bill de Blasio is mayor. We've endorsed him after the primary, and he's going to be a great mayor.
And can you also talk about the challenges of operating in an electoral climate, you know, up against, you know, business interests such as Rebney and Jobs for New York? I mean, does that create all kinds of different challenges for you as a third-party organization?
Well, this cycle, I would say, you know, a lot less than you might think. You know, again, because we started so long ago recruiting great candidates to run for office, working with them where they were out there on paid sick days, out there on issues like the plight of fast food workers. We just developed long, you know, strong relationships with these people, and they were great candidates. They were able to project a message that was popular. They had the, you know, the energy to really go out on the doors and bring their message to the voters, and not surprisingly, you know, it resonated. And so, you know, even though the real estate board spent over $7 million on their program, I think, you know, the results pretty much speak for themselves. I think most of the candidates that they supported really left a bad taste in their mouth in terms of the impact. You know, people felt like the negative stuff really wasn't working for them, and you know, the fact that they lost control of their message and they got attacked for being associated with the 1% in many of these districts really, you know, a lot of the candidates felt that it hampered them. That's not me saying that. That's them saying that. So, you know, and in a few instances, it's like a dramatic backlash, I think, on, you know, for them. I mean, I think when people look back on this cycle, they're going to remember Carlos Menchaca and the really, you know, nasty kind of mail that, you know, I just remember Carlos talking about the Mexican Americans bringing in the mail that said, like, this guy's from, you know, from where was it? I think it was someplace in Texas. You know, he just moved here last week, and like really getting what the coded message was, and just being like so upset, you know, since there's such a strong Mexican American community in that area. So that, you know, he obviously won despite being outspent by, I think, like 4-1 in terms of when you add together the Jobs for New York spending and the incumbent Sarah Gonzalez's spending. So it, you know, it didn't have an impact, and in fact, it just, you know, fired him up to work harder. And the popular message that, you know, of that that Carlos was running on really did resonate with people, and it succeeded. And he won. It's a tribute to the public financing of elections that we have, the campaign finance system we have in New York, and it's a tribute to Carlos. So I think that people will look back and remember that race in particular. I think as an example of how combination of a really strong, good candidate with a populist but reform message combined with the public financing system, that won, and the Jobs for New York kind of outsized spending by the 1% really with the negative mail and negative messaging really backfired.
Now, you touched on this a little bit before, but you have a projected winner in the public advocates race in Tish James, and in the Democratic primary or Democratic nominee for mayor, Bill de Blasio. Both look like front runners in their respective races. Both are WFP allies. Could you talk about the importance of having those voices, in city government, and also giving WFP maybe an extra voice at the table?
And Scott Stringer is going to be a great comptroller for the city of New York. Tish, obviously we have a long relationship there. I actually ran her campaign in 2003 on the Working Families line only. I think that her victory was really a tribute to all her work over the last 10 years. It was, she had a strong brand right from the beginning of the campaign, really, tapping into the same message that Bill de Blasio had, was promoting in terms of tackling inequality, more affordable housing, helping our children, expanding universal pre-K, increasing the social, more protections in terms of the social safety net, paid sick days, for example, where she was a real leader, stop and frisk, making sure that all our communities are treated the same when it comes to law enforcement. All those things, Tish had just a long history of working on those issues, and it's no surprise to those of us who know her that she was able to win despite being outspent.
And having de Blasio as potentially the next mayor, according to the polls, I mean, that's obviously he's run on a very progressive message, and you talked about the importance of having more progressives in the council and city government. Does that,
Bill's campaign was, I think, just a pitch perfect campaign. Wasn't that long ago when most people were writing his candidacy off. I think they had incredible message discipline. Once again, I think, what we've learned, not surprisingly, is that in the New York City electorate, being a progressive really works. There are exceptional circumstances, and we've seen a lot of those in the last 20 years. But I think that, Bill de Blasio's message about, confronting inequality head on, again, expanding universal pre-K, tax fairness, extending living wage laws, and looking at, I think, a different paradigm in terms of development. If I were to project, I'd say Bill is really going to be more focused on making sure that developers, the building trades, and also service and retail workers and the community all come together, and that we really try to get a win-win out of development. That's what I would project. So we think it's great. These are a lot of the issues that we've been talking about for a long time at Working Families. So it's great to see people in power who have the positional authority to really try to mitigate some of the strong inequality that unfortunately right now is characterizing our city.
Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the items on the WFP's agenda going forward? I mean, you obviously have a lot of turnover in city government, and then Governor Cuomo is running for re-election next year. Will either of those, aspects affect the WFP's legislative agenda?
A lot of turnover in the city, you said?
In the city government, yeah.
Yeah. At the city level, a lot of things we've talked about now are things that you see the progressive the progressives in the city council are talking about. If you look at the 13 bold ideas that progressives on the city council have put forward, that agenda, and there's also a terrific compilation, The 21st Century for All, that John Mollenkopf and some others have put together. We think those ideas are really, capture a lot of what we've been, pushing, and we're really proud to have a partnership with those, with those groups. And we think, again, Bill de Blasio's message really we're looking forward to partnering with him. The kinds of things he's talking about. Obviously, paid sick day is something we fought very hard for. We were able to get a good bill passed, but we're thrilled that he wants to make it even better, so that nobody has to choose. No New Yorker will need to choose between taking care of a sick child or losing a day's pay. That's something we want to move that era into the past. We want to make we want to move past the era of poverty wages when people have to be on all kinds of subsidies that the taxpayers provide, and they're working full time. We want to have family supporting jobs, and you see Bill really talking about the importance of labor, talking about the importance of doing something about the fast food industry and other low-wage employers that are out there, and trying to create a strong economy that works for everybody. We support a lot of these ideas. We've been talking about them for some time, and we think that we have a moment, really, to get to the heart of your question. In New York City in particular, we think we have a moment when the stars are aligned in terms of the city council, in terms of the mayor, in terms of the comptroller, in terms of the public advocate. When you see a lot of people being elected who have the same values, there's an opportunity to, in a smart way, to bring people together and to really be serious about this issue of inequality and get back to an era when more people had a chance to really get a piece of the American dream. When my mom was a New Yorker, she grew up in abject poverty, and she was able to go to CUNY for free. The subway fare was a much smaller chunk of her income than it is now for people. There was just a whole range of public goods that were more accessible for people, and that helped A, bring people together because everyone used them because they were strong and good, and B, give poor people a leg up into the middle class. So I think getting back into that by really showing that government can really be on the side of working people and working families in this city. We've got a real opportunity to do that, and a responsibility to do it well and to do it smartly.
Bill Lipton, State Director for the Working Families Party, thanks for joining us today. For more editions of Last Look, visit our website at www.cityandstateny.com.